who are some guys that you should be trying to trade for in fantasy football? I'm going to give you my top 5 running backs that I believe you need to go out and try to get on your fantasy football teams. I make new content like this every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. And with that being said, let's get into the video. The first player is going to be Antonio Gibson. And I feel like this is a little bit of an obvious one, but there's been a lot of questions about Antonio Gibson that I've received as, should I trade away Antonio Gibson? What to do with Antonio Gibson? So it makes me believe that you can get a solid deal for him right now in fantasy football. We got to see on Thursday night that he's more of an RB2 than he's an RB1. And that should have been the realization for you coming into the season if you have Antonio Gibson. He doesn't play on third down, and he's not used on the 2-minute offense. That's a large part of fantasy football for the running back position, especially in your PPR leagues. They need receptions. Now, it's not like he's not running routes, because this past week, he ran 23 routes to J.D. McKissic's 24. He was just targeted only 2 times. And it looked like at times that he was open, but Taylor Heinicke decided to go elsewhere with the ball, but that's also a positive for me, is that Taylor Heinicke looked more than serviceable for this offense, which better days are ahead for this offense because he has looked good running the football. Like, he's looked really good. This past week, he looked really good running the football. Better days are ahead for him. So right now, the fantasy managers that have him are down on him. So this is a perfect opportunity to buy low. Buy low on Antonio Gibson. Better days are ahead. The next guy on the list is going to be James Robinson. And there was a lot of concern after week 1, and I think there's still some concern with a lot of fantasy managers out there with James Robinson because he's not putting up the numbers that he was putting up last year. So they're definitely concerned. But there's some positive signs right now for James Robinson. So week 1, he was outtouched by Carlos Hyde, but he did outsnap Carlos Hyde. This past weekend, he outsnapped him once again, 73% to 25%, which is fantastic. And he also outtouched him 14-2. Which is lovely. Both really good signs of things to come. He also seems to be the preferred receiving back on this role, or on this team. For a team that really isn't going to be very good this year, that's good news as well. Better days are ahead. They're not going to play Denver every single week, which Denver is one of the best defenses in the league. Honestly, I think they're one of the better defenses in the league. Next week, they get Arizona, then they get Cincinnati, Tennessee, Miami. So better days are ahead for James Robinson. And right now, you can get him at a very good discount because believe me, I've received a lot of questions about James Robinson, and a lot of people are panicking about him right now. So go out, try to get James Robinson. The next player is going to be Myles Gaskin. And coming into the season, there were some concerns about a running back by committee with him and everything. So I definitely think that the fantasy manager who has him right now is a little bit worried because the production just hasn't been very good. But let's look at a couple things, okay? First, you have Tua get hurt in this game very early. So this offense, I don't even think they scored any touchdowns or any points in this game. They got absolutely blown out by Buffalo. So this past week, it just was doomed from the start once Tua went out. But if we look at things a little bit deeper, we like what we see. First thing is, in fantasy football, a running back that sees receptions, that sees work in the passing game is much more valuable in PPR leagues than a guy who just exclusively sees rushing work. That's the first thing you have to realize when it comes to fantasy football. We want our guys involved in the passing game more than the running game in PPR leagues. So the first thing is, week 1, he played 53% of the snaps for this team compared to 70% of the snaps this past weekend. Number 2, he's also just the best running back in this backfield by a lot. Number 3, Tua, his injury isn't serious. It's more of, can he play through the pain? It's a rib injury, so if he can play through it, he'll be back next week, which will be great for this offense. And also, right now, number 4, the last thing is, he's 9th amongst running backs in targets on the season already. So he's seeing plenty of work in the passing game. It's only going to get better for Myles Gaskin going forward. So you need to go out, try to get Myles Gaskin. You could probably get him for really cheap as well if you're in a PPR league, because once again, receptions are more valuable than rushing attempts, which he's going to see plenty of receiving work this upcoming season. So Myles Gaskin is the 3rd running back. The next guy on the list is going to be Tyson Williams. And I just don't think people that have Tyson Williams are valuing him high enough right now where you can get a solid deal done for him. He looks, in my opinion, by far the best running back on this team. By far the best running back. He looks the most explosive. He's involved in third downs, which is really encouraging for him going going forward. He also saw more touches this past weekend than what he did week 1. He saw week 1 12 touches, this past weekend 15. So that's encouraging as well. He's also right now 7th in the NFL in yards after contact per rush, more than guys like Chris Carson, Austin Eckler, Antonio Gibson. He's also 3rd in the NFL right now at the running back position with 5 rushes of 10 or more yards, which is really good as well. He's high up there in like basically all the important stats at the running back position right now. And just on tape, he looks solid. So this is a guy that I think as the season progresses is more and more involved in this offense on a team that loves to run the football. Go out and try to get Tyson Williams now before his week 3 matchup versus Detroit, where it's going to be too late. So the 4th player, Tyson Williams. The last player on the list is going to be Michael Carter. And I think that there's a lot of people out there right now that are considering dropping him. I'm going to tell you to wait on Michael Carter. This was never going to be a player that you were going to draft and start right away. It was going to take a little bit of time. And there's some encouraging signs for Michael Carter from this past weekend. Now, first, this team has not looked good through the first 2 games. This offense has not looked good. But they played, in my opinion, an underrated defense in Carolina. Then they played New England, who we know New England has a history of beating up on rookie quarterbacks. I mean, just look at what they did last year to Justin Herbert. It was ugly. So this was never going to be a good matchup for Zach Wilson and company. It just was never going to be a good matchup. But there's a few encouraging signs for Michael Carter from this past weekend. First, he played on 33 snaps, which is the same with Ty Johnson. But then you have Tevin Coleman, who played on 7. He looks like the better back. He led this backfield in touches with 14 to Ty Johnson's 12 to Tevin Coleman's 5. So that's encouraging. Number 2, this past weekend, he forced the 10th most tackles, forced the 10th most missed tackles at the running back position, more than guys like Derrick Henry, Najee Harris, Austin Eckler, Kareem Hunt. He was also 3rd this past weekend in rushes that went for 10 yards or more. So there's encouraging signs here for Michael Carter. Like I talked about in a previous video prior to the season starting, in college, he was really solid. In all the top running back categories that you looked at, he was near the top. He also just had good tape. This is a player that I believe will take over this backfield at some point, and that's what you were hoping when you drafted him. Now, this upcoming weekend is not going to be a good matchup again. He gets Denver. It's going to be another tough matchup. But then he gets Tennessee and Atlanta before a bye week. I think at that point, he's going to start to separate himself and show that he's the best running back in this backfield. So go and trade for him. You can get him probably for basically nothing right now, and he might even be dropped. So try to get him before he gets dropped. So he's the last player on the list. And if you enjoy this content, make sure you smash that like button. Give me a thumbs up. Who are some players that you're trying to trade for heading into week 3? I post new content every single day, so make sure you hit that subscribe button. Thank you for watching, and have a great day.